Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Nayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead and Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva be offered. And ask the prize for Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavad Gita Mashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naisti. Hare Krishna. So we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, entitled Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. We're on text 24. Text 24. Today's October 9th, 2021. Here at our home ashram is Bhakti Dhru, Bhakti Vishnu, Bhakti Paya, Damayanti Malini. Online, we've got Bhakti George, Bhakti Kim, Bhakti Len Cohen, and Teja Prakash Babu. I think Teja Prakash might have your feedback. I think it's yours. Hare Krishna. Okay, text 24. Hastal.
Hastal.
Vuhatu. Tasya. Nana. Karma. Chikirshaya. Tayo. Tu. Balavan. Indra. Adanam. Ubhaya Ashrayam. Astavu Hatustasya. Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayos tu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam. Astavu Hatustasya. Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayos tu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam. Astavu Hatustasya. Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayos tu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam. Would anyone else like to chant the verse? Astavu Hatustasya.
Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayostu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam.
Astavu Hatustasya. Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayostu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam.
Astavu Hatustasya. Nana Karma Chikirshaya. Tayostu Balavan Indra. Adanam Ubhayashrayam.
anyone online like to chant the verse?
Asto ruhu hatastasya
Astaru hatustasya
nana karma chikirshaya
anakarma chikirshaya
tayostu balavan indra
tayostu balavanindra
adanam ubhayashrayam.
adanam ubayashrayam. Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Hastel,
Hastel,
the hands.
hands.
Wuru hatu,
Uru,
manifested.
manifested.
Tasya,
Tasya,
his.
his.
Nana,
Nana,
various.
various.
Karma,
Karma,
work.
work.
Chikirshaya,
Chikirshaya,
being so desirous.
being so desirous.
Tayo,
Tayo,
of them.
of them.
Two,
Two,
however.
however.
Balavan,
Balavan,
to give strength.
to give strength.
Indra,
Indra,
the demigod in heaven.
the demigod in heaven.
Adanam,
Adam,
activities of the hand.
activities of the hands.
Ubaya ashrayam,
Ubaya Ashrayam,
dependent on both the demigod and the hand.
depending on both the demigod and the hands.
Translation. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength, and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Purport by His Divine Grace, C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In every item, we can note with profit that the sense organs of the living entity are never independent at any stage. The Lord is known as the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha. Thus, the sense organs of the living entities are manifested by the will of the Lord, and each organ is controlled by a certain type of demigod. No one, therefore, can claim any proprietorship of the senses. The living entity is controlled by the senses are controlled by the demigods, and the demigods are the servants of the Supreme Lord. That is the arrangement in the system of creation. The whole thing is controlled ultimately by the Supreme Lord, and there is no independence either of the material nature or of the living entity. The illusion living entity who claims to be the Lord of his senses is under the clutches of the external energy of the Lord. As long as a living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood to be under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord. And there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion, Maya. However much one may declare himself a liberated soul. I am perfect, powerful, happy, I'm a liberated soul. Okay. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tayubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gwabani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Haschatya Desha Tarine. Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 24. Astavuru Atustasya Nana Karma Chikirshaya Tayos Tu Balavan Indra Adanam Ubayashrayam. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Hare Krishna. Okay, so let's control about it's concerning the Adidevik, Adibhatik, Adhyatmika, and then all right, so then we're like we're the person inside the subtle and the gross body, and Prabhupada emphasizes, just about our enmeshment. Mine is a verse in the first chapter of the Bhagavatam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of the cycle of birth and death can be freed immediately by even once unconsciously chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. Okay, so that gets into the entanglement and the process for freedom, the process for actual freedom. So the process for actual freedom starts with some humble acknowledgement. I'm not free. I'm not free. I'm in prison. I'm in prison in a dark cell, in a straitjacket. And actually, if I think carefully with a little humility, I'll realize I'm not God. No, it's one thing to, because there's many, so sometimes many come to that conclusion instead of like acknowledging the sort of degraded, many come to the conclusion of the philosophy. I guess the conclusion that I'm all bound up, like there's so many, things I cannot control, right? Like just in this body, right? Any organ, any corpuscle, any muscle, a tooth, a toenail, anything could go wrong at any, literally millions of things. I'm no physiologist, but literally millions of things at any moment. And then we're screaming in agony, okay? The conclusion is I am the supreme powerful God, okay? So don't go for those philosophies. That like they're beyond fool. No, I mean it's foolish. It's foolish to be like, no, but I'll be happy in this prison because I'm going to make an arrangement with the guards to get an extra pack of cigarettes. I'll be really happy. Okay, but then I am God. That's beyond foolishness. That's beyond I'm going to get an extra pack of cigarettes in this cell. I got it. I'm the man. Okay. So I don't know, the image that comes to me, and of course, all these metaphors we get from Srila Prabhupada, that like, let's say we have a ball that's conscious, a ball. And so the ball's kicked, and while the ball's kicked in the air, the ball is announcing, boasting, I'm flying, I'm free. Okay, but actually we'll notice that if we told that will negatively affect the sound here. What are we trying to do? Okay, good, thank you. Just sometimes this comes off. It's a whole delicate contraption. So the ball is free to fly like a bird, precisely according to the force and the velocity and the direction with which it was kicked, and then it can celebrate, I'm free, until it lands and gets kicked again, and then it's free to fly according to the force and the direction of the most recent foot that kicked it. Okay. So that's us. Okay. That's us. Now, okay, so this isn't, actually, this is a very hopeful philosophy. It is a completely pessimistic philosophy about happiness in the prison cell. Like it won't really bring you like deep joy if you get another pack of cigarettes because you bribed the guard. It's not really going to do it. So, but it's very optimistic philosophy because we're Prabhupada representing the Prime Price. He's giving us, he's giving us a process to really free ourselves from the prison, right? So again, to use the prison analogy, Prabhupada uses it a lot. That yeah. Well, first of all, so the spiritual, so we do have freedom. It's not like it's all predestined. We do have freedom. And with our freedom, we've gotten ourselves in a particular prison, which is this particular body. We do have freedom. And we can use our freedom to get out of the prison altogether. And that's what we're being encouraged to do by Shukadeva Goswami, Lord Brahma, Srila Prabhupada. We do have freedom. Now, it's not that we have like supreme God-like free will, but just like a citizen in a state. Like, yeah, you got lots of freedom. Yeah, you can go to the park today, or you can volunteer, do some service. You can go to your job. If you want to play a sport, you can spend time with friends or family. You got lots of freedom. And then if we misuse the freedom, violate the laws, then we end up in prison. Okay. So it's not that the citizen has supreme godlike freedom, but that we do have a lot of freedom. So it's not this deterministic, mechanistic, reductionistic philosophy that it's all just controlled by unconscious forces and like that. So yeah, like whether physical reductionism, or even whether in psychology, Freudianism is a form of determinism, right? We're all controlled by the id and the ego and the superego, or behaviorism. We're all like Pavlov's dogs, and we're just controlled. So this kind of determinism versus voluntarism. So Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita perfectly reconcile. There's no contradiction. To the extent that we use our freedom to get in a prison, then things are controlled. In the prison, you can go outside half an hour a day. You need to eat at this time, and you need to stay in this small cell. Like that. So to the extent that we choose to associate with the lower modes of nature, then it's more like a maximum security prison. To the extent that we choose to associate with higher modes of nature, sattva, then it's more like a minimum security prison. Many of you have heard me tell my story. Back in the early to mid 90s, I went with Chandrasekhar Prabhu. He was the director of the ISKCON prison ministry at the time. And so we went to prisoners were on the Panhandle, West Florida, and we're driving up, and we passed way past Tallahassee. I think it was right before Pensacola, and so we turn in, and it's an Air Force base, a military base, and I saw people playing tennis, and I assumed they were like the generals or the administrators. But it turns out they were the prisoners. It was a white-collar prison at Eglin Air Force Base. And so they had a lot of freedom. But still, there was no barbed wire. But still, there was a white line they couldn't cross. So that's like sattva, like velvet shackles sort of thing. And to the extent that we give ourselves to a transcendental process, and that's what we're urged to do, to the extent we give ourselves to the transcendental process, then we get out of the prison completely. So that's there's a lot of talk about nonviolence, nonviolent communication, nonviolent dialogue. So real Bhagavad Gita, of course, there is physical nonviolence, So Bhagavad Gita describes in the 13th chapter where Krishna talks about, read Krishna in that chapter, he really gives, here's the material context. Birth, death, old age, disease. Here's the context. And when the material energies interact in this way, we call it, I'm happy because my stocks did good and people honored me. But when they interact in this way, now I'm upset, now I'm sad because I'm insulted and finances are not going well. So Krishna says, that's all the life of mechanics. That's desert life. And then Krishna gives 5 verses and he goes, and here's the process to get out of the prison. And it starts, he gives 20 items, really, 20 items, 19 or 20. And the foundational one is humility. Humility. I'm not the supreme controller. Like, of course I'm a supreme controller. Look, I can pick up the watch if I want to, but that's not true, right? Even this apparently simple act, there's like so many demigods involved in modes of nature. And at some point, this hand and these fingers will not be able to function to pick up the watch. Maybe today, but certainly in 50 years, this hand will not be, right? It's all going to be food for fishes and worm stool and things like that. Not trying to be morbid, just saying as it is, Bhagavad Gita as it is, okay? So then Krishna goes, here's the problem. So it starts with humility. Yesterday, Teja Prakash Prabhu, again, in class and discussion, he gave examples like Haridas Thakur's humility, of course, Srila Prabhupada's humility. There's Sri Sanatan Goswami. So he was quite successful materially. He was practically the prime minister of the land. He was like the king's right-hand man. And he was managing the country. Very brilliant. He knew like 6 languages: Persian, Arabic, Sanskrit. And was young, wealthy. Had to. And then he encountered Lord Chaitanya. He encountered Lord Chaitanya's movement. And when he first approached Lord Chaitanya, he said, Kayami Kenema Jare Tapachaya. He said, people think I'm great. People think I'm this like amazing person. I got it together. And then he said, and I'm such a fool, I believe them. I'm believing my publicity. Right? I believe what I put on Facebook. I mean, he didn't say that exactly, but more or less. Okay. Right. Right. So he said, like, so I'm like a triple fool. Right. But actually, in your association, I realize that not only don't I have it together like everyone thinks, I've convinced them. I don't even know who I am, but I do know I'm suffering like anything. I'm suffering like anything. Yeah. Yeah. So like Arjuna was also, he was the alpha warrior of the time. And then that, Bhagavad Gita, essentially it's a true story about transformation, Arjuna's transformation. So Arjuna says, Kapanya dosha, patasvabhava, Kachamitram, Dharmasamu, Decheta, Yatrayasyan, Nichaya Bui Tanme, Shishastayam Sarimam Prapana. So Arjuna realized he was arguing with Krishna. He goes, well, no, what about this? What about that? And at some point it goes, yeah, now I am confused and I've lost my composure due to weakness. In this condition, I surrender to you. Now I'm your disciple. Please instruct me. Similarly, Sanatan Goswami, please instruct me. So that's humility. Realizing, yes, let me surrender to someone who has the key to get me out of this prison. To get me out of this prison. And so to the extent that we're doing that for ourselves and for others, then we're being nonviolent. And to the extent if in the name of helping, we're like, I can get you an extra pack of cigarettes. Yeah, then you'll thank me, you'll be really happy. Then we're doing violence, even if we're patting on ourselves on the back because I'm such a nice person. Okay, like that. So yeah, so this is real nonviolence, humility. Humility, of course, also Bhagavad Gita also defines it as not eager to be honored by others, not eager to be recognized. And that requires that I'm focused on purpose. Trinadapi sunichena tavuribasa hishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadhari. So Lord Chaitanya, well, the last line, kirtanya sadhari, is about you can do kirtan 24 hours a day. But what comes before that? Okay. In order to be in that consciousness, to be eager, enthused, clean consciousness, to fully engage in chanting God's names and doing devotional service, to regard oneself as lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, requiring, demanding no respect for oneself, ready to offer all respect to others. So that's the foundation for being enthused to do kirtan 24 hours per day. Those four things: feeling lower than the straw on the street, more tolerant than a tree, demanding no respect for oneself, ready to give respect. Prabhupada emphasizes, devotional heart respects even the ant, right? All living entities. Doesn't want to do violence to any living entities. And of course, this humility, this is not humiliation. This humility is powerful. Right? It's powerful because I'm not wasting my time acting like a fool, trying to convince myself and others how happy I am in the prison. Then that just saps all, that just drains all the energy. That drains all the energy. So this humility, it's a distinction between genuine humility and false humility. False humility is, because I want you to see that I'm a spiritual person, so I'll say humble things. I am so fallen. I like that. Are you clapping yet? That sort of thing. Right. But so the genuine humility moves the spirit soul to deeper inspiration and enthusiasm, to engage in its original function, to serve Srila Prabhupada's movement with joy. That's the test of any emotion, whether it's spiritual or material. Whether it's there's spiritual anger, there's spiritual guilt, there's spiritual fear, right? And there's material everything. So it's emotion moving us to deeper inspiration, to serve with enthusiasm. Because that service with enthusiasm, that's the key element to get out of the prison. That's the key element to get out of the prison once and for all. And so Janma Mrityu Dravyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. So the miseries inherent in prison life means being forced to be trapped in a body, subject to old age, disease, death, cheating, limitations, deception. We can go on and on. So the purpose of that is to experience the pain of it, not to wallow in pain, but let that misery, let that suffering move us to greater urgency. Like, I'm finished with prison life. I'm finished with prison life. Let me take to the authorized process that'll get me out of prison life once and for all. Some of you have heard me tell some of my life history, where like in the inspiration of my sister Carol, when in the late 70s, when I was 18 years old, I first took like human potential courses and seminars and things like that. I was 18 years old. And right. So I remember, so in 1979, right, 1979. And so I don't even know if like I don't know if my process was particularly powerful in a personal way. Even at one point in one process, I was facilitators asked me to told a few jokes, made some sounds with my hand. Yeah, in some ways it wasn't that profound. But now what was profound is because I got there that like people, and I remember in one of the courses I took there in 1979, there was like about 28 participants, a lot of staff, 2 facilitators, Larry Perlman and Sally Westwood. I really look at like they were like both significantly younger than Drew, for example. Like they were in their 20s, but I was 18, so Sally, Larry.
The guys.
Yeah, I like that. Sally came all the way from California. Larry directed there in Philadelphia. But anyhow, I could see that. So it wasn't just like 2 or 3 people. It was quite, and these were like successful people. If we had Facebook, they would be shining on Facebook. They were successful people in the world. These were, and what did impress me was they were all living in internal screaming agony. That impressed me at 18 years old. Not like, not everything's gone great. Got a few things to deal with here. No, they were all living like screaming agony, pain, suffering. And so I could see that in myself. I could see this is what the world's made of. And again, these are like affluent Americans of diverse ages, occupations. So I said, this is what the world's made of. So that impressed me. You should close the windows. Okay. So interestingly, the way Krishna arranged it, or Prabhupada arranged it, so it was just shortly after that, I also started reading Prabhupada's books. Small Science of Self-Realization, Beyond Birth and Death, like that. I didn't start reading I read Bhagavad Gita. That was not till the summer of '83 when I backpacked around Europe. But smaller books. Because then I could see, like in the secular humanist, there's just the intense misery, desperation.
No, very happy.
So, I appreciate it because they experienced their experience, and so they felt liberated. Me too. I mean, I'm not just that. Me too. Okay. So there's because they let's not pretend anymore, and then there's a happiness. There's a liberation, a powerful process, and I appreciate it. And then I started studying counseling. Started training other counselors at On Drugs Incorporated, that sort of thing. But then reading Prabhupada's books, it gave me context. Because I could see through these transformational seminars, personal growth, this and that. People were getting liberated. They were connecting with honesty, some sattvic qualities, letting up the beach ball, whatever analogy you want to use. Okay. Then reading Prabhupada's books, I was getting a perspective okay, and we're going to keep acting in ways that'll create more screaming agony inside. Okay, and then maybe we can express it more honestly. And then here's Prabhupada. I'm starting to read Prabhupada's books there in my late teens. And then Prabhupada was like, here's a solution to get out of this miserable situation all in all. And yeah, it starts just where the seminars, experience your experience and communicate it, and honesty. Yeah, I mean, that's a foundation. I mean, it's not the whole picture, right? It's the foundation. So then Prabhupada's giving knowledge. Who am I? As Sanatana Goswami, who am I? Why am I suffering? So the answers are here. This chapter is entitled Bhagavatam's the answer to all questions. Right? Okay. Right. Bayam Dvitiya Vinivesha Tashyat, as long as I misidentify the self with material body. And this isn't some woo-woo religion stuff. Oh, actually, this is a more rational, this is a this is a perfectly rational explanation of who I am and who I'm not. Much more than I got in any philosophy course or seminar outside of Prabhupada's teachings. And this gives us the process to get out of the prison altogether. So like with Srila Prabhupada, we can, like, sometimes some will experience Prabhupada as, oh, he's so heavy. He's so heavy. Like, so both are there that we can find. And we don't want to imitate Prabhupada, but we want to follow Srila Prabhupada. Right? His example, and not imitate his level of consciousness. We're not there. But yeah, so Prabhupada sometimes hard as a thunderbolt. Like, yeah, to just like think you'll be happy all bound up in a solitary confinement prison. If you can get like another pack of cigarettes, or do you think that there you are bound up in this body? You can't even move, without permission of the modes of nature. And to think like you're the omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent God. It's like, yeah, that's foolish. That's insanity. Okay. And at the same time, hard as a thunderbolt and soft as a rose. Right. So also, it's important to hear Prabhupada, that often like this is supreme compassion. Yeah, feeling the suffering, our suffering, the suffering of the living entities, feeling the suffering of the living entities, compassion, but not sentimental compassion, compassion with knowledge. Yesterday, Teja Prakash quoted Prahlad Maharaj. And so Prahlad Maharaj has many verses. Prahlad Maharaj is like, he doesn't want to be liberated till everyone's liberated. Right, so this is paradukkha dukkha, feeling one's distress, feeling the other's screaming agony as my own. Paradukkha dukkha. I often quoted lecture from Prabhupada, where Prabhupada said, this is the Vaishnava heart, this is the devotee heart, feeling this is real empathy, feeling someone's pain as my own. That's the Vaishnava heart. And then Prabhupada said, material life, that if someone else is distressful, then I am very happy. If someone is suffering, then I am very happy. And then Prabhupada said, of course we don't say that. Of course we say, I feel so bad. So it's not like psychology is missing in the Bhagavatam like that. It's all there, very simple, precise, penetrating. But it's compassion with knowledge. So yeah, empathy, compassion, and with knowledge of sharing knowledge. When I say knowledge, it could mean philosophy, it could mean cognitive, it could mean sharing prasadam, it could mean sharing kirtan. Because like every aspect of Krishna consciousness reveals truth, and simultaneously it's non-different from the truth that it reveals. So knowledge can mean like helping people understand who you are, who you're not. We're spirit, soul, we're not the body. Nichi Siddha Krishna Prema Sajika Bunai Shravanani Shuddha Chitte Karye Udai. Love of Krishna is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. It's not something to be contrived artificially from any external source. And it's naturally awakened by the process of chanting and hearing.
So this kind of getting out of the prison and being nonviolent and it's really, essentially it's about supporting, encouraging, lovingly challenging people, starting with ourselves, to go back home. We could go back home like in a geographical place back to God, but go back home to ourselves, to the core, the essence of ourselves. It's nothing artificial. It's nothing just like supporting people to wake up who they are, to who they really are, take off the masks, take off the facades that are all generated from the body. And so we're in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All the philosophy is condensed in those 32 syllables, all those philosophy. So sometimes we're sharing kirtan, sharing japa, sharing prasadam, sharing the philosophy, getting into discussions. And and I can, my whatever few drops of experience I've gotten over 40 plus years, I can say that's when I feel rewarded, fulfilled, happy, clear, enthusiastic, to the extent that I'm cultivating this transcendental knowledge in a realized way to get out of the prison and sharing it with others. And when I'm doing anything else, I'm miserable. It's just, that's the purpose of the pain of prison life. Essentially, it's not to punish in a harsh way. Essentially, it's like to wake up to like, let me get out of this prison. Let me let this pain and suffering be an impetus to surrender to my original nature, spirit, soul, self-realization, serving Krishna's pure devotee. And that's so the foolishness is because literally millions of times I'll do things that are separate from this process of knowledge, experience the same suffering, maybe have some realization, or not much realization, but then I'll go back to the goal is to get an extra pack of cigarettes, right? Okay, so sometimes we get Prabhupada in that compassionate, ferocious, Nrsimhadev mood. Come on, for your own best interest. Come on, it's serious to get out of prison life. Take to Krishna consciousness. And then that's all in the containment of Prabhupada's deep compassion, deep empathy for that screaming agony, for the suffering. So compassion with knowledge, not just in the sentimental knowledge. And here's how we can all pull out the roots of those weeds that cause that torment, that suffering, that misery. So this one, we kind of mocked the whole I am God thing. Of course, there's a sense in which we're God. The sun rays are the sun, but the sun rays are not the all-powerful sun globe. And the philosophy is achintya beta beta tattva. That's, we call it trans-rational oneness and difference, trans-rational inconceivable oneness and difference. Yes, simultaneous like that. And so, because the thing where to think like I'm God in totality, can't help but smile when I say that. Like I just look at my day at any point, like I'm just kind of like hardly stumbling along. It's my pastime, But like to think I'm the God into like that, then then there's no way to get out of prison, because getting out of prison means humbly surrendering and serving God. And if I think I'm God, I'm never going to surrender to serve God. So that becomes a real obstacle, a real stumbling block. So so Prabhupada would often, be sometimes he would get angry in this kind of I am God stuff. Same time he would encourage, try to be godly. Give up this I am God. try to be godly, and we develop godly qualities by giving ourselves to absorption in Srimad Bhagavatam, activities like this that awaken us to our original soft-hearted devotional qualities. So this is Canto 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 10, Text 24. The verse reads, Astavu hatustasya nana karma chikirshaya tayos tu balavan indra adanam ubayashwayam. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your presence, attention, and association. I welcome any comments or questions. Malini.
I just wanted to share, yesterday we had our Krishna book reading and we read the pastime of Pondraka.
Pondraka, yeah.
And in that pastime, it's so obvious how ridiculous it is for one to think he's God.
Okay.
The pastime of Pondraka, for those who are not familiar with, is Pondraka really think he's Krishna.
Yeah.
And that he dressed like Krishna, and he put jewelry like Krishna. He really pretends that he's Krishna, and he's convinced that he's going to attack the imposter Krishna because he is the one with God, and so if Krishna is God, that doesn't work for him.
Mm-hmm.
And the description in the Krishna book is so humoristic. And at the same time, there is a clear message that, yeah, the whole conception of wanting to be God is as ridiculous as the way it comes
Pondraka,
out
yeah.
with Pondraka.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just,
Thanks for sharing that. I'm ecstatic to hear about your Vaishnavi reading group and that Pondraka pastime. That's probably the quintessential pastime to illustrate the foolishness of the whole pretension of
yeah.
pretending we are Krishna, we are God. Thank you, Melanie. Paya.
I had a comment and a question. I was appreciating seeing that karma translates to work.
Yeah.
I didn't ever know that. I just understood the concept of karma, but I didn't know it translated to work.
Yeah.
So it feels more like, okay, this is my karma, so this is my work
Yes.
to be done, and there's no escaping it. But I'm appreciating that translation.
Karmic work. Yeah.
And then my question is around humility.
Okay.
So I'm understanding that, our part of our, I would say, karma is to be humble to Krishna. And when in our class, you're saying that, the heart of a devotee, that we be humble enough to not commit violence even to an ant.
Yeah.
So my question is, okay, well, what if the ant bites us?
Okay. Good.
So then where is the line of humility? If someone else were, is committing violence onto us,
Yeah.
how do we remain humble? Or, I'm sure there's different examples of
Sure.
that, but I want to understand in the philosophy what that line is of humility.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your comment and question about karma simply means work, activity, sometimes the law of action and reaction. But very simply, karma means work. And then humility, it's like, well, let's take Arjuna. So to get, I think, to get the philosophy here. So Arjuna, as you know, he wanted to go to the forest and put down his bow and that would have been arrogant. So when Arjuna got humility, he picked up his bow and killed millions of people. That doesn't mean like All right, so if I go out and kill someone, that's really humility, because we want to get, there's the form and then the essence. So I like the approach. One way to think of humility is to know our position and role and service and surrender to it. So maybe sometimes our position, role, and service for Krishna is to put down our bow and go to the forest, because there's another pastime. And it's Mergari the Hunter. Have you heard that one? Okay, so where he was a hunter. It's described in the later section of the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's probably a story from the Puranas, but so he was a hunter, and so he killed animals. But he didn't just kill animals; he would half kill them, so they would torture. They would be tortured. Okay, so Narada Muni, great sage, great devotee, he's coming along, and Narada Muni sees all these animals writhing in pain. So he sees the hunter. So he talks to the hunter, Mergari. And he goes, "What are you doing?" Mergari said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" And yeah, I'm killing it. I'm a hunter, that's what I do. So Narada said, "Okay, but don't make them suffer, just kill them. Don't make them suffer unnecessarily." Mergari said, "Well, what's the problem with it?" Because that's what he learned from his father. That's what he learned from his father, how to do it. So, okay, so you can see this is a very degraded fellow. Like his enjoyment, he would enjoy seeing the animals tortured and suffer. Very degraded. Okay, so Narada, so anyhow, to make a long story short, so to summarize. So even though he was so degraded, he had respect for Narada Muni. And then he was really open to hear Narada Muni. So through Narada Muni's association, in just really a few moments, the hunter transformed and became the soft-hearted Vaishnava, the soft-hearted devotee of Krishna. And so then he was a little concerned, like, well, how will me and my wife, how will we eat if we don't hunt? Like, I realized this barbaric thing. Yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. So Narada Muni said, don't worry, you just trust. He said, okay. So then he did, and he put down his bow. And Narada Muni's instructions is, you simply with your family worship the tulasi plant and chant Hare Krishna. Simple, beautiful life. Worship the tulasi plant and chant Hare Krishna. And they did that. And then the villagers were so moved and impressed. Narada Muni transformed this wicked hunter into this beautiful, soft-hearted devotee that they brought grains, and so they didn't have to worry about food or stuff. So the point is, so for Mergari, his service, his humble service was to put down his bow. For Arjuna, his humble service, pick up your bow. Pick up your bow. So, but that the principle is there. The principle is there. So, all right. So now, so the point is there. Prabhupada makes this point often. So even if we're trying, vegetarian, which is still violence, but it's less violence than to eat cows or chickens. But even if we're vegetarian or this or that, we walk on the street, we're stepping on ants. We drive our car, we're killing so many living entities. So that's true. That's true. Right. So, and here's the thing, we're implicated in the karma of that pain we're causing. We're implicated. Unless we learn and adopt the art and science of living a truly karma-free life, a truly karma-free life, that which means that whatever I do, I'm really doing it for Krishna's pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Then actually, for like a pure servant of Srila Prabhupada is stepping on ants, inadvertently, but it's part of life. Stepping on a jivo jivasi jivanam. Material world means one living entity's food for another. Okay, but we're going to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. We're going to Kirtan. Even we're gone to the market to purchase food to offer to Krishna. So everything I consume and everything I have Kirtan, Prasadam programs. Then the spirit, soul, and the body of the ant, they actually make spiritual advancement. They actually make spiritual advancement. Like maybe instead of 100 births till they come to a human form. It'll be one birth to come to a human form and get to chant Hare Krishna. And so that's the strategy, the process to get out of the prison. Otherwise, even if we're trying to be good, you described about Pandraka. So then also in Krishna book, there's a story of King Nriga. So King Nriga, he was a very pious person. And he was a very charitable king, very magnanimous, very generous. And he loved to give charity to the Brahmins, right? So he gave like 1,000 cows to one Brahmin. Then one cow wandered from the pasture back to King Nriga's pasture, and King Nriga the next day gave another 1,000 cows to another Brahmin. But he didn't know it, but he gave one cow twice. So the Brahmins or whatever, they were in a mood that day or whatever. But okay, so then they realized, well, King Nriga, you gave us both a cow. You're a cheater. What's going on here? So he said, oh, I'll make it up to you like that. But anyway, he made that mistake. And then he ended up, he ended up taking birth as a lizard stuck in a well, all in a future life Krishna personally associated with him. I mean, there is, after a few lives, there's very auspicious transcendental ending. But just because he was trying to be good, but it wasn't like devotion. It wasn't transcendental. He made some mistake. So that's, yeah. And then practically, for sure, it's just that if someone attacks us, then it's natural. It's natural. It's not a crime or even a karmic crime to defend and to attack back. Someone's attacking us or our family. So there's a time for righteous violence. Definitely a time for righteous violence. Now, even that though, because let's say if someone's attacking, and then in self-defense, even the government, if it's a proper government, they won't put me in prison if it was truly self-defense. But then karmically, it's like, okay, well, I want to protect my body. Now I can use my body for, let's party and let's have all these decadent activities. Then I am implicated in karma. But it's kind of like, look, it's my responsibility to use this body in the service of Krishna. And so no, I'm not going to let you destroy this body. Just like I'm not the car, but I have service to do with this car. So no, like if someone comes and starts with a sledgehammer on the car, tries to set fire to the car, take off the wheels, just like, well, you're not the car, right? And I'm using this car in Krishna service. Even from the material example, just because we're not the car doesn't mean anyone has a right to destroy it. So we're not the body, so others don't have a right to destroy it. And if they attempt, then it's our right and responsibility to protect Krishna's temple of the form of the human body.
There's still humility in that protection.
Yeah.
We're still acting in service of Krishna.
That's it.
Still humbleness in protecting the car.
That is the devotional consciousness. Even the protection, it's in the service of Krishna. Malini.
It seems that from what you're sharing, there is a direct correlation between humility and surrender. It seems to know if I pick up the bow or put it down, there is an act of surrender. And so also in some situation, we may be attacked by someone.
Yeah.
And surrender means I accept it for my purification, for self-realization.
Yes.
And then maybe other situation I'm attacked by someone, verbally or whatever.
Yeah.
And surrender means I assert myself, I
Yeah.
take a stand, I powerfully defend or whatever. It seems that the two are very connected from what you're sharing.
Surrender.
And I remember hearing I think it's in some class, and I'm sure you will remember better than I, but where Srila Prabhupada speak about Christ, like the story about when you start a fence, the other one, and Prabhupada say, no, we don't do that, or something like that. So it's something to that extent that no, we want to protect ourselves. Like we are non-violent people.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, we're not aggressive, but we'll defend. Because, so to turn the other cheek, and then, so that's like the Trinadapi, tolerance, humility. And then it's it. So are we defending, whether it's verbally, or are we defending from false ego? False ego means a false conception of who I am. And if we aren't, then we're implicated in karma. Are we defending from real ego? Real ego means realizing who I am, spirit, soul, servant of Krishna. That's the key.
Yeah, am I protecting and make my false ego?
Yeah.
Am I protecting my false ego, and from that action of protection, my false ego grow? Yeah.
It seems that like one of the keys is to really know where we're acting from, and to really know. I find it interesting that like I can be acting in some ways and think I'm serving Krishna or that I'm surrendered, but I'm really not, because I'm serving my ego. And it's like layered, and just appreciating how important that key is. And it feels like there's work for me in uncovering what key I'm coming from, or like what's my stance when I'm coming. Am I a servant of Krishna, or am I serving Pyle, the character?
You're saying direction for your further spiritual growth in these distinctions. Yeah, and as you and we recently had some communication, and so I know. So the more I'm like reading Prabhupada's books and following his guidance, including like guidance to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam with sincere souls, like everyone here. The more I'm doing that, then the more there's really not room for not knowing whether I'm serving Krishna or not. I mean, like the more I just get, the more it's clear, like where I'm coming from, and just the more I stay in touch with this light, then there's not room for shadow, and like I can just see where I'm like, I'm honestly serving, or like, this is me in deception. It's pretty clear, actually. Thank you, Pyle. Damayanti.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. We were talking a lot about the prison today, and contrasts of material consciousness and spiritual consciousness. And I had a dream a few weeks ago that I was collected with my children and put in prison.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, in the dream, it wasn't like a regular clean or just or reasonable prison. It was like a makeshift, like ghetto, like garbage and an alley, and it was like
Miserable.
really scary.
Yeah, scary place. Yeah.
It was really scary, and I had my kids with me, and I didn't know what or why, and I was terrified, and the dream woke me up. But and I tried to go up to a guard, and I was like, how do I get out of here?
Yeah. How to get out of this place?
Yeah, and they didn't know, but then they went and they checked, and they said something like, "Oh, well, we're gonna have like a trial or something." But then in the dream, it makes sense, but there's this church that gets to go first, so you have to go 40 days later.
Okay.
And I kept them, because I've always lived in pretty just, rational society.
Yeah.
I would never just, of course, my kids are gonna get taken out of here. Well, I stay.
Yeah.
But I was starting to dawn on me, I don't know what's gonna happen, or if I can get a hold of anyone. Like, it just started to seem like this, I don't know if I can get out of here.
a dark and desperate situation.
Yeah, I know what would happen to my kids, or if they'd be separated and put somewhere else, and I was really terrified. The dream woke me up at that point, because I was like realizing how terrifying this is. And it felt really real, woke me up. And I was like, and then I woke up Garuda, my husband, and it was the middle of the night, and I was like, I told him the dream, and he's like, oh, in the middle of the night, he said, we are in a prison with our children, and it like sent like shivers down my whole body. I was like, just like terrified, like, oh my God, I don't know what will happen really. And it was just like, I can't believe he said that in the night. It was like very perceptive, and he was in the middle of sleeping, and it hit hard. It hit hardcore, and actually it affected the dream, and what he said affected me. And then when I like got up the next day, and I was like, okay, I need to make more, commitments in my sadhana and my spiritual life. I need to draw closer yet again. This is what I have. This makes sense. I like this practice. I want more, and so I'm sharing that, and I wanted to share, like, also for me, when I get in touch with this illuminating philosophy, and the truth is hardcore, like slammed down, and I always have loved that. And I always like it. At the same time, it hits me really deeply and hard, and then I have a hard time just dealing with the fact that I'm in so much illusion, and then there's this I have like these two things in my face, and it's like very overwhelming. I'll like get headaches, I get overwhelmed emotionally, and sometimes I just don't want to associate with the brilliant, like hardcore things of Krishna consciousness and Srila Prabhupada, and it's like challenged with the reality of all my delusions, and the whole everyone being in delusion around me. It's like I could just like crack or something. Like I don't know how to stay sane. I'm not always staying sane and grounded on the path. It's like with reality.
You can go into like overwhelming collapse.
Yeah.
And then your husband's astute philosophical comment in the midst of apparent sleep, it moved you to kind of to pierce through your bewilderment and take action that will help you and your children get out of the prison once and for all.
Yes, that did happen. It's like little by little, So I wanted to share that I have a hard time coping with spiritual and material reality at the same time. It's like, this is insane, and then this is rational, but there's nowhere confirmed, and it's not very, what I mean to say is, put more concretely, Krishna consciousness, as presented by Srila Prabhupada, it's just like really nowhere in society is it like, promoted, and it's hard to walk around, and it's, and then when I come to the association here, I'm like really struck and like hit deeply, and then I'm like, so there's churning. Maybe that's a good thing. Yeah, so how to stay grounded.
Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your honest sharing, and very moving. Weird dream interaction there in the middle of the night. And, well, as far as grounding, I mean, I think you've done that, like, because it sounds like the dream combined with Garuda Prabhu's comment that grounded you. So I don't know that I have anything to add other than stay with that, because that grounded you.
Yeah, it's painful.
Yeah,
I guess just experience the pain that goes with it.
yeah.
Like, oh, I am in prison and I've got kids, and everybody else is sort of in, like you were saying, screaming in agony.
Yeah.
You could see that.
Yeah.
I was really relating to you,
Okay.
the whole sharing earlier in the class. Like when you come to realize,
What's beneath the thin veneer? What's beneath the mask? Yeah, and it's like screaming agony. pain. So that was revealed to you in the dream. You were disturbed. Garuda's comment, I get it grounded you. Do what you need to do to get out of prison. Stop with the excuses. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions? Thank you all for your enlivening association. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.